G'day punters, welcome to the drop punt round 2 version after a stellar start to proceedings last week. All our bets came in.
Ripper.
Yeah, so Paulie with you and Marzi here as well. Marz's multi getting up at the juicy odds of $15, and the moral of the round, Geelong getting the chocolates against the Magpies, which was a nice start to the podcast. But we move on. We can't sit and dwell on the past. We've got to move on and get more results for the punters. And it all kicks off in round 2 tomorrow night Thursday night between Richmond and Collingwood, 7:20 at the MCG. A few outs for Richmond are Hooley, Rance and Bolter, who's been omitted. And Collingwood, Callum Brown has come out, and coming in is Levi Greenwood, so a senior head comes in for an older head. Richmond getting the chocolates last week, and obviously Collingwood getting beat by Geelong. Tough game to assess. Richmond $1.92, Collingwood $1.92 as well, so both can't be split with bookmakers. Tough game to assess. Mars, how did you see it from a betting point of view?
Don't mind Collingwood. Come in since the teams have been announced. Little spec here and there. But I like Collingwood. I think they can bounce back off last week's performance. I think they played well last week. They couldn't get past the Geelong defence last week. Yeah,
they were good in defence, Geelong. They were very good actually.
Pretty strong in defence.
Tigers were okay against us, against the Bullbaggers.
They did what they had to do, I guess. Rance going down.
That's huge for them.
Massive.
And Hawley as well. They'll lose a bit of run off halfback. I still think they're good enough to win, but that head-to-head mark, it's just, again, I think the corporates and TAB and bookies have got it fairly right. $1.92 each of two are around that mark anyway. Yeah. I actually had the game. I thought it would be a good game to bet into how many points would be scored. Over 173.5 at the $1.90 mark, I think it was. Yeah. I think that was the bet that I was leaning towards as one of the better bets for the weekend in what seems to be a pretty tough weekend, I think, from a betting in a head-to-head market point of view. Yeah. And you're Collingwood. You're in Collingwood's camp. I'm in Richmond's camp. I was initially at the start of the week from a head-to-head point of view, but I just think with the injuries. And Collingwood will be keen to bounce back. Yeah, I just sort of let it through and thought that the points bet would be the best bet. Yeah, over 173.5. I think with Richmond losing Hooley and Rance, they might leak a little bit as well, but they get Castagna back, so a bit of goal scoring power. Lynch, second up from a bit of an injury break. Hopefully he can fire up as well. Next game, we'll move along quickly. Friday night at the SCG, Swans versus the Crows from 7:50 p.m. Interesting game. Both teams coming off disappointing losses. The Swans losing to the Western Bulldogs last week, and the Crows effectively getting belted by Hawthorn at Adelaide Oval. Tough game to tip. Swans are $1.75.
Yeah.
And the Crows, Swans are $1.70, Adelaide at $2.20. The line's 6.5 at $1.90. Tough game to assess. I had Sydney marginally at the start of the week. I missed the even money. I thought that they were value at even money, and now that they're at $1.70, I can't really. I'm not really playing in the game. I'm in Sydney's camp. Yeah. I'm in Sydney's side, but I don't think they can. No bet for me.
Yeah. Nah.
Adelaide are missing a few as well. Douglas and Duday doesn't help. Yeah. So
be a tough game. I think it's raining in Sydney. Mm-hmm. Thunderstorms, raining.
Yeah, that's some shocking weather there.
So it could be a scrappy old match. Where is that? The SCG?
At SCG, yeah.
Could be a standard Sydney performance.
Interestingly enough, they lost more games there last year than they actually won Sydney, which is incredible to think it's their home ground. What was the stat that they've lost 7 games, or they've lost something like that? They lost the 7 games seven games they played there last year. So not the greatest form on the ground, the Swans, but I think their form line's a little bit better. I was in their side, but no bet for me. What's your bet? Yeah, you've got one in the game.
Don't mind Adelaide just to win.
Adelaide
straight.
Yeah,
Adelaide straight.
220. Fair enough. Next game is the Bombers versus the Saints. It's on Saturday afternoon or Saturday twilight game at Marvel. 4:35 is the time for the first bounce. The Bombers are $1.32, St Kilda $3.40, and the line is 21.5. Interesting game. Essendon were absolutely atrocious last week, but one of the best bets got in with GWS at the line, so we were happy that they didn't rock up from a pocket point of view. And then St Kilda obviously having the 1 point win against the Gold Coast. Again, it's another tough game to assess because $1.32 seems under the odds after underwhelming performance by the Bombers against the Giants. And then you've got St Kilda coming off a win, but the problem is that of any substance?
Is it? Yeah.
That's the question.
The Gold Coast.
You did you have a bet in the game at all,
or? This game, no, none whatsoever.
If I was going to, I would lean towards St Kilda at the line. If you were absolutely had to have something in a multi, or you had to have a bet in the game, but I would steer clear of this with, I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole, to be honest. This could go either way. I think Essendon are under the odds. You could potentially do something like we suggested with Brisbane last week. Before the bounce, I thought they were ridiculous unders. So you could lay Essendon prior to the first bounce, and then you might be able to get, your money back, hoping that Essendon sort of have not a sluggish start, but the market just sort of sorts itself out, and Essendon get back out, and then you might be able to get your wager back in a bit more on the exchange. So maybe laying Essendon might be a wise idea for any traders out there, and then backing them in play. But if I was going to lean to a bet before, I'd say potentially St Kilda at the line, but that's no confidence.
If you like your player 30 disposals and all that, you could have one on maybe Jack Stevens at 3.20, or Dylan Shield at a juicy odds of $4 to bounce back from last week's performance.
Forget how many disposals.
30 or more.
30 or more, Dylan Shield.
$4. It's not a bad little bet.
Raises the eyebrows.
Raises
the eyebrows.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't think it's a game.
Not for me.
No any confidence with anyway.
Nah.
Moving along again. So the next game is at Adelaide Oval, 5:10 Saturday twilight again between Port Adelaide versus Carlton. Port Adelaide coming off a fantastic win last week against Melbourne. They were rank outsiders almost. They were about 4-1 to beat Melbourne, and they did it convincingly at the end of the MCG. And Carlton were gallant against the Tigers, but just ultimately outclassed in the end against Richmond. Obviously Port going with a superior form. They have their first game at home in front of what will probably be a packed Adelaide Oval, and Carlton, going. I think the last time they played Port Adelaide in Adelaide, they got smacked by over 80 points, something like that. It was not pretty. Completely different side, but Port Adelaide $1.16, Carlton $5.20. Line is 32.5. My initial thought was, last week I thought that after we played against Richmond, I thought that we would actually beat Port Adelaide, but that was on the proviso that I thought Melbourne would flog them, and then Port Adelaide would go into this game favourites, and we go in with a little bit more momentum. But no, Port Adelaide showed that they're up for the fight this year. So I would again maybe Carlton at the line 32.5 plus 32 might be a little bit generous, but
would be good.
It wasn't a game I was again looking to really get involved in. Hard to back Carlton or tip Carlton. How many players keep changing, chopping and changing in the side.
Not for me.
And Port Adelaide, I think, are under the odds. So I think we'll let that one through to the keeper, I'd say. Next game is an interesting one. Geelong versus Melbourne at GMHBA, Cardinia Park. This game set first bounce is set for 7:25 p.m. Saturday night. The Cats go into the game as $1.52 favourites. Melbourne at $2.55 with the line at 11.5 at $1.90. Again, I was in this camp of Geelong. I thought they were really good last week. They toughed it out. Melbourne were really disappointing.
Yeah.
They do get May back though.
Big
I think they will bounce back from a form point of view. I don't think they'll be as bad as they were last week. But I think Geelong just over there. I think they'll be too good. But no bet for me in this game at all. You've got something or not?
One from the player markets. Disposals 30 or more. Got Angus Brayshaw for bad week last week. Yeah. I think he got 20 last week, right on it as well.
He only had 20 touches.
Yeah.
Where are we?
20 touches last week, so I think he'll bounce back and
I'm going to say that.
Get you 30
I'm going to make sure
this week. Yeah.
What did he have? I had 26.
26. But yeah, he got it with the this and that. But I think he'll get 30 this week.
What odds?
$1.83.
$1.83.
Want to just boost your multis a bit.
Yeah, I was in Geelong's camp, but it's going to be a bit of a wet night on Saturday. It's predicted rain. Could be overcast as well, cold too.
Could be close.
Not the greatest place to travel down to. Cold Geelong down the highway on a Saturday night, but
probably get the little master kicking goals from the boundary or something, giving it to the fans. Yeah,
his head will be shiny with the rain. No bet for me in that game. That's another one we're just letting go through. Next game, which I think is a belter, West Coast versus the Greater Western Sydney Giants. West Coast $1.55 favourites, GWS $2.45 outsiders. The line is 10.5. GWS were awesome last week. West Coast were pretty average against Brisbane, but they did have a fair few outs. No Kennedy, no Rioli, no Gaff, no Natanui. They may get a few back this week, yet to be determined because we're filming this on a Wednesday night. But GWS's away form is a bit questionable, but they go into the game, I think, with the superior form line. But I think, how do you judge what GWS are capable of when Essendon were that bad? How do you? It's almost like it was like a perfect setup for GWS. They got Essendon on the hop. No Danaher.
I think Hooker was out too.
It was like they were just against inferior opposition. And the market is suggesting that as well. The market's saying that GWS were good, but they weren't that good. There was not, the substance of the win might not have been as good as you think. But the problem is, how the hell can you back West Coast at $1.55 after they got trounced by Brisbane?
What did they finish last year? 15th.
Yeah, well, they had won 5 games. They were pretty. They were competitive.
They were good last year, I think, for the list that they are. But
yeah. My goodness gracious me, what a tough game that is. Oh, Jesus.
Look, from a tipping point of view, I love the GWS. They're probably my second favourite team in the comp. I'd go for GWS this week.
The way I look at it is that it's like I would have marked it almost $1.90 each of 2.
Yeah, something like that.
I would have said GWS overs, but I just still can't bet.
I probably would have had $1.80 West Coast. I
just still can't bet because I just get this feeling that West Coast might bounce back.
Look, if you like GWS, have a bet on them. They're good odds. $2. Yeah. What are they?
$2.45.
$2.45. You could probably look at the corporates. You probably get. I'm looking at Sportsbet at the moment. Get $2.70.
$2.70. Okay.
So if you want to have a little swing,
shop around.
Yeah.
I think that at $2.70, that's
it's a good
bad.
price.
I'm not making it a wager for me. That's not my cup of tea this week.
But I think I've got one bet in the game.
Yes, you do.
And it's a 30 or more again. Loving these ones this week.
Well, that's a problem. You can't. There's nothing in the head-to-heads. It's just the head-to-heads are just head scratches. So you punters want to punt, as we say, and you're trying to find something for the punters. And
so we got the little Italian rabbit, Stephen Cornelio.
Yes, Cornelio.
30 or more. Could be a Brownlow winner this year, maybe.
He played a good game against.
But still first round.
Fantastic.
But he'll bob up probably at 35 this week or something.
Yeah, he was
kicked 2 goals again.
Good last week.
Awesome.
For me, no, I'm not in this game. Next game's another head scratcher for me. North Melbourne versus Brisbane at Marvel, 1:10 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. $1.85 favourites North Melbourne, $1.95 Brisbane. Line is 1.5. So this is going to be, or what the betting suggests, it's going to be a titanic struggle for both sides to get over the edge in this game. Brisbane come in with superior form. North Melbourne were bloody atrocious last week.
Yeah, surprised.
They were abysmal.
Yeah, Fremantle made them look like second rate.
Yeah, they were terrible, North Melbourne. And they go into the game favourites. They did SP last year, North Melbourne, I think $1.19 or $1.20 against Brisbane and did beat them convincingly at Docklands.
Yeah.
But this is another problem. How can you back a team that's come off an 80-point loss and they go into the market as favourites at $1.85 against a team who beat last year's premiers by 6 or 7, whatever. I think it was 6 or 7 goals in the end. It is just so hard to find an edge here, I think. I've got no idea in this game. I'm leaning to Brisbane because they go in with winning form. They've got a good young side. They play good football, good attacking brand of football. The North they were terrible last week. Again, nothing for me. My bet's going to come up in the next game. I don't know if you've got anything.
No, I got nothing.
North
Yeah,
and
but
Brisbane will
probably
move on straight away. No point dwelling on it.
No.
Next game is between Hawthorn and the Western Bulldogs at the MCG, 3:20 p.m. on a Sunday. Hawthorn are $1.38. The Bulldogs are $3.10. The line is 18.5. Hawthorn were fantastic against Adelaide last week, getting the chocolates at the Adelaide Oval. Bulldogs were good as well. They won as outsiders against Sydney at Marvel. Hawthorn go in heavy favourites, you'd say, at $1.38.
Yeah.
And I had my second best bet of the weekend here. I thought Hawthorn 1-39 at around the even money mark of $2.10, $2.20, depending on where you shop. I thought it was a good bet.
Yeah, good bet.
Yeah, I think Western Bulldogs. I don't think they're good enough to beat Hawthorn.
But not, yeah.
And obviously the market's suggesting that as well, given that it's at the MCG too. If it was at Marvel, I think the odds would have been a lot tighter.
Yeah.
But I think Hawthorn at that 1-39, it's going to be a cold day, cold windy day on Sunday as well. 1-39, I think is the bet for the game for the Hawks.
I like that.
2.10.
Good price.
And the last game, I don't know if you found anything from when we did our form till now, but Gold Coast versus Fremantle at Metricon Stadium. Gold Coast are outsiders $3.70. Fremantle, after their resounding win against North, $1.28, and the line is 24.5. I had nothing in this game. I might have sided with maybe Fremantle. Anyway, maybe Fremantle 1-39, but again, it's not a game I'm interested in getting involved in.
No interest out of that one.
You just don't know with these. Like, I think Fremantle's win had a bit more substance to it.
I think Freo will win.
Yeah. Not a game that I'm looking to get involved in from a betting perspective at all. It'd be a tough round for tips as well, I think, just quietly. God. If you're in any tipping competitions, good luck. I'm not this year, but if you are, God help you. So we'll just quickly go over our my best bets for the weekend, just to revise. So Richmond versus Collingwood, over 173.5. So that's the total points for the game. And then Hawthorn 1-39 against the Bulldogs, and then Mars. If you've got any best bets, and what's the Mars's multi for this week? So
my multi for this week, got a good one, good start to the year last week.
Ripper start to the year.
If you followed my way, put 50 on it, you would have cleaned up a nice little 750 in the kitty. So we'll start off this week's round with Collingwood head to head. Adelaide head to head. Then the Port Adelaide Carlton game will do over 168.5.
Yep.
And Cornelio 30 or more.
Yes.
And Angus Brayshaw 30 or more. That'll get you somewhere in the neighbourhood about $25 to $27, something in there.
Yeah, so you have a little $5 or a tenner on that, something
do whatever,
like that for the punters.
Put whatever you want on it.
I think this week with my best bets, just I'm not as confident as I was last week. I tread very. I wouldn't wait if I was confident last week with the wagering. This week I would almost halve the wager. Is what I would say. It was $150 bet on sorry, $100 bet on
Geelong.
Did I have 100 or 100?
100.
I think it was 100 on Geelong at $2.50 was last week, and then it was a GWS line bet as well.
Yeah.
This week I'd almost be inclined to halve the units or half the wager, just purely because it's almost like the market and the form is just sort of trying to sort itself out this week. You know, you've got teams coming off thumpings that are going in as favourites, and teams that were outsiders last week that are still outsiders but are in better form. So tread really carefully this week. I wouldn't go blasting into anything unless you've found something of complete and utter value.
There was one.
There was actually, yes. Before we do head off, yes, this is a little speculative one that you like.
The Warpedo,
James Warple
for Hawthorn, for 30 or more, $11.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
It's like you know he'll get in the.
I'm not venturing into those disposal markets because they're a bit too tough for me. But you've found.
He'll keep you on edge until the whole game, but he could get it at $11 this week. Have a cheeky tenner on it. A Guy McKenna.
A little Guy McKenna. A little Peter McKenna.
So
that'll keep you interested.
Yeah.
And that'll be a wrap for this week, punters. Good week last week. Good to get the show off to a good start. Yeah. Hopefully we can keep up with our winning ways this week. Hope your bets come through. Hope your teams win, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, punters. Thank you.